Welcome, scourge of carolers, to Geek Salad's Retro Movie Reviews from the Geek Salad Podcast. I'm Andy.
And I'm Mike.
And we're actually not doing a retro movie tonight. In observance of the holiday season, we have opted to choose a few movies, Christmas movies particularly, that Mike has not seen.
Nope.
It's a lot easier for movies that Mike hasn't seen versus Christmas movies that neither of us have seen, because that list was very thin. And we wanted to start one off. Technically, we hadn't both seen it, but I saw it like 2 weeks ago, and you just watched it last night.
Yeah.
2022's A Christmas Story, Christmas.
Right.
Story. Christmas. Story. Christmas.
Story.
So this was on HBO Max, as I think everything except for two. So if we're doing 4 weeks of this, there's only two that will that are on HBO Max.
Right.
The other two are on either Disney or Netflix. So we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
So it's the official sequel to one of Mike and my favorite Christmas movies, and quite honestly, one of our favorite movies. I think it made my 50 for 50.
It probably would make mine if I knew what that was.
My 50 for 50 was the letterboxed ranking I did. I was hoping you guys were reviewing Santa with Muscles. God, no.
I haven't even heard of that one.
Oh, with Hulk Hogan. It's actually considered one of his worst movies, which is saying something because it's Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, most of his movies were, in fact, almost all of his movies were pretty shitty.
Yeah, I'm actually going into my list here. But Christmas, when I turned 50, I put a list together of my favorite 50 movies in no order, really. Yeah, and A Christmas Story is actually in there.
Nice.
I adore A Christmas Story. It's one of the few movies where I will watch it every year.
Yeah.
I think the only time there you go. I think the only time I didn't watch it was when I did the musical 3 years ago.
In which case you were very, very busy.
I was very, very busy doing the same virtual story. So, and ignoring the Christmas Story 2, which came out about 10 years ago and is an utter sack of Christmas coal.
And A Summer Story as well.
Yes.
I looked up, there've been like a bunch of movies based on the Parker series.
Yeah, there was one that PBS had put on, I want to say like 30 years ago. And I think it was roughly loosely based on My Summer Story. But you could definitely tell it wasn't there. But I think they got Gene Shepard to actually do the narration for it.
Right. Yeah.
He died over 20 years ago. So naturally, I was very skeptical about them doing an actual sequel with Peter Billingsley, with the entire children's cast. Due to death and retirement, none of the adults from the original movies showed up. And I was very nervous, because the closest thing I think we've gotten to like let's revisit these beloved characters from our childhood was that Comcast ad that E.T. did with Henry Thomas about 2 years ago.
Well, we also had that weird commercial with Macaulay Culkin recreating Home Alone.
Yeah, that was about as funny as that Ferris Bueller commercial that Matthew Broderick did about 10 years ago for cars, for a car. I don't even remember what brand it was. I have to say straight up, cards on the table, I enjoyed this movie way more than I was expecting to enjoy it.
And I wanted to enjoy it way more than I actually did.
Okay.
I don't hate it, but it's got issues. It's got a lot of issues for me.
Okay. I will say this isn't going to make the annual rotation. I don't know what the rewatchability of this was.
Yeah.
What I liked about this movie is that it's very clear that Peter Billingsley loves this character.
Yes.
And
you know what? I'll say that about pretty much the one thing I will say, the biggest thing I will say about positively about this movie is that it's got so much heart.
It does.
It knows exactly what it wants to be, and it tries so desperately hard to be that. Which,
Right.
yeah.
Peter Billingsley still has the mannerisms, that little sneaky laugh of his. And the fact that he was required to do his own narration for this, because again, Gene Shepard was dead.
Yeah.
I felt like he got it. He got the he got the tone, he got the tempo. You know, I mean, Gene Shepard's voice was very distinctive, so obviously he wasn't fooling anybody.
Yeah.
But at least I believed that they were kind of the same person based on the way they talked.
Yeah.
The other thing I like too is that it was not Callback City, the way that I was worried it was going to be. There were callbacks.
There were a lot of callbacks.
Right.
When they use copious amounts of footage and audio from the original movie in this one, that's a lot of callbacks.
I think your definition of copious and mine vary. This isn't like how much reuse footage can we use for Superman 2. I understand they used some of the stuff because they wanted to they wanted to remember Darren McGavin.
I mean, first off, just so everyone knows, this is a full spoiler review.
Yes.
So we're going to go into everything. When they have on the end credits, shot for shot, this is from the original movie. This is how we recreated it in this movie.
They started shooting this movie in February of this year. So, yeah, no, I think it would feel weird if they didn't have the callbacks, but all right. So here's the thing: I don't feel like they became the crux of the plot the way that maybe we were just going to get a full retelling of A Christmas Story. But now Ralphie is the grown-up, and his kids want that elusive gift. It's still Ralphie. Ralphie just needs to reap the Christmas that his dad used to give him.
Yeah. I mean, for me, honestly, it would have been enough just seeing all the actors back. I mean, seeing Flick back was great. Seeing Schwartz back was great. Scott Farkas we'll get to. His brother we'll get to.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's cool, Kurt. Yeah, you gotta watch it. Later. Thank you for joining anyway. You know these are spoiler reviews. We not spoil the movie.
But it was for me. It was enough seeing them all there. I mean, the new character, like the kids, I loved. His wife, I loved. It's
Julie Haggerty did a great job.
It is never bad to see Julie Haggerty. I love Julie Haggerty.
Yeah,
and she did a fine job with this one.
Yeah.
It's just the having the photos up on this, it made sense, but just constantly pulling up the audio from the original movie, it was like, yeah, guess what? Everyone who's seen the original movie is watching this movie. People who have not seen the original movie are not watching this movie. So you do not need to constantly have the parts of the original movie in this one. Everyone who's watching this movie knows that what you're doing, what you're referencing. You don't need to use the audio. You don't need to use the video.
Yeah, I think you and I are going to differ on this a little bit because I didn't feel like it was overdone. I felt like, yeah, there were scenes in there, and thinking about other Christmas movies with overdone things. I just recently watched Spirited, and it was an amazing premise that they just couldn't give breathing room because there were too many musical numbers. Which
I was curious about that one.
Yeah, it's not half bad. So here's a funny little tie-in to that, by the way. The guys who wrote the music for Spirited, Pasek and Paul, wrote the music for Christmas Story the musical. They're also the assholes that beat out Lin-Manuel Miranda for How Far I'll Go, and I will never forgive them for
We
that.
know what you think about Pasek and Paul, or however you say their names are.
Pasek and Paul, yeah. But I mean, in general, this movie has. You're right. You said it at the top. There's a lot of heart to this movie. It was a little like I wasn't expecting, and again, we're going full spoilers here. I wasn't expecting it to be about the dad having just died.
That did surprise me.
Legitimately, based on the promos and stuff, I felt like maybe he had died a few years before.
Yeah.
And they're just trying to find a way to, bring that feeling back. The fact that he was freshly dead, that sat in this household a little close to home.
Yeah, no, I get you on that one.
And
actually, that was a bit hard for Autumn.
Very hard. And we genuinely enjoyed this movie. The stuff with Flick and Schwartz. First of all, I'm still pissed that they're not letting Schwartz be Jewish. Come on.
Yeah.
But the fact that, you think out of the two of them, that Schwartz would have been the more successful of the two, and he's just simply not.
Well, I mean, quite frankly, neither one of them is very successful.
Well, I mean, Flick inherited his dad's bar, but he's actually doing pretty good business.
Other way around, Schwartz had the bar.
No, Scott Schwartz, the actor who played Flick, had the bar.
Hold on, I've got it up on Wikipedia right here.
Okay. I confuse him too because of Scott Schwartz's name.
Yeah.
Flick, where's Flick? Flick who? Flick who stuck his tongue to the.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That throws me off so much.
I know it does. But they went back to the double triple dog dare you thing, but it was for something completely different. The ramp, which I thought was such a fun scene.
The scene itself was fun. The triple dog dare, I could have done without that.
I think it's always been a needling point for the two of those characters, because you never hear Ralphie do that. It's always Flick and Schwartz with the double dog dare. It's their thing.
Yeah,
so again, it wasn't overdone. They used it in the one scene to get Schwartz down that ridiculous action park ramp. And
for me, it just felt a little bit too on the nose.
Okay.
But the scene itself was fun, and the scenes in the bar were actually pretty fun. Teaching the kid how to bartend.
Yeah, and not only that, but the fact that he actually had to learn about the phone gag was hilarious.
That was pretty good.
I love the phone gag.
Is a Junior here? Junior's not here. No, sorry.
And all it costs is you just got to throw him a buck.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. The casserole gag I thought was a lot of fun. And these things, I think, were implemented into Shepard's storytelling. If they weren't, they felt like it. They certainly felt like these are things that people do in the Midwest.
Not so much nowadays, I think.
Well, not so much nowadays, no. But we're talking like 1973.
Yeah,
it's when this movie takes place.
Yeah.
The Christmas tree lot thing was great with him trying to, pull the same crap that his dad pulled, and he's terrible at it, and he got the monster tree.
Yeah, and scratching up the ceiling, and honestly, who really kind of surprised me was the girl, his daughter.
Yes.
When she was negotiating with Bumpus.
Yeah.
That was pretty fun. I was like, that girl she's got some fun. She's got some fun to her.
Yeah, and I like that too. We never saw the Bumpuses in the first, in the original.
Yeah.
I mean, we only get to see one in this movie, but it was a nice callback. The Bumpuses do make appearances, and I don't know if you've ever read any of Gene Shepard's works.
No.
The Bumpuses do make appearances. In fact, Ralph brought one of the Bumpus daughters to a school dance.
Oh.
So you get a better inside look of just how filthily they lived, but she was just trying to be like, she's just trying to do school and book learning. So it was kind of nice to get that in there. The callback with them going to Higbee's and the whole thing. Don't let them kick you in the face. What? Nothing. I thought that was pretty funny. But the thing was, because this movie primarily centers around Ralph, the gags felt fresh because he wasn't just reliving every single thing that happened to him in the first movie. And if you want a comparison point to that, watch that dog shit Christmas Story 2. Because that movie is very much I have to hit this, I have to hit this. It's a clinker. Gotta hit this, I gotta hit this.
Yeah. This one, it did when the kids were in line, had that kid, you want some of my lollipop? It's like, I like Santa Claus. I was like, okay. We get it. And then the
kid threw up at the end, which was hilarious.
And it was hilarious if it wasn't so obviously CG. You just open it like, it's like,
yeah.
Okay. They spent all of 50 cents on that CG effect.
Again, they started filming the movie in February.
Yeah.
It's not going to replace a Christmas Story. In my opinion, this will never replace a Christmas Story. Christmas Story is just because it also has to capture that moment in time. 1939, home in Indiana. Oh no, 1940, because this is our last good Christmas before the war.
Yeah, I mean, it was. They were always kind of vague about the dates.
They were vague about the dates, but it's always been kind of suspected. The whole reason why that Christmas stands out because it was their last great Christmas as kids, because the war was literally going to start less than almost exactly a year later.
Is one of the cats around there?
Yeah, one of the cats is climbing over a whole bunch of stuff right now. So if you see me turn off my camera and scream at the cat, you'll know they knocked something over that they should not have knocked over.
Gotcha. I think the biggest takeaway I had about this movie though is that it shows exactly how much Gene Shepard brought to the original one. Without him, there was just something not there. There was something lacking. It felt more formulaic than I was hoping for. With the original one, it was kind of anti-formulaic because it wasn't just bum 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 bum. It was bum and dun.
Right.
Everything was jumping around because it was just a series of vignettes. Whereas this one was story.
Well, there was a through line story here that was a little more of a concrete story. Whereas within the first movie, you are almost needing to be reminded about the BB gun.
Yeah.
And those little pieces that fit together the story of the BB gun feel like they were all drawn out of one story about the BB gun and just, interspersed in there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there is more of a through line story-wise in here. There are little interstitials. The going shopping, the whole, I'm done, and everybody in the lounge, which, by the way, department stores used to have bars. That would have been part of a short story. The ramp, but yeah, you're right. It was more of a through line story about just how Ralph is going to, recreate Christmas the way that his family wants him to. It was a little off-putting that Randy was not there for his mother after his father died.
That was one of the issues I had. Is the only reason Randy was in this movie was because it would have felt weird if he wasn't. But shows up at one, over the phone on one scene at the beginning, and then boom, he's there at the end. And other than that, Why was he here? He served
I
no
think part of
purpose.
it is that they didn't want Randy having to do much heavy lifting. Let's be honest, out of all of these guys, Peter Billingsley is the only one who's acted consistently for the last 40 years. The dog
Give me a
agrees.
second.
Okay. So I can understand that, but it was a little off-putting, especially because he was, he like had to be suckered to come back home. So I found that a little troubling. But I will say that the end, when after their presents are stolen and that they're still trying to like scramble to have a decent Christmas, the fact that the last thing that the old man did was get Christmas presents for the grandkids before he died, I wasn't expecting that. I thought Uncle Randy was going to come in and save the day. And I have to admit, that broke me. I thought it was such a sweet thing that, for the last Christmas, for what would have been his last Christmas, he was still there, even though he wasn't there anymore. And the fact that Ralphie never once sits in that chair until Christmas morning, like the old man's chair until Christmas morning, I mean, that really just spoke to me in terms of how much the old man meant to him.
Yeah. I thought it was a really sweet moment. I liked it a lot. At the same time, I was also like, kind of Deus Ex Machina.
It is.
Oh, he just happened to have all of their favorite gifts right there in the basement.
Right.
It's sweet. It's really cool. I like it. I like the sentiment of it. At the same time, I kind of call bullshit.
Yeah. Well, I think it was more about the intention than the actual action to make the scene mean something.
Yeah, and also that all the gifts stolen out of it. I really hate that trope. I really hate that trope.
Yeah. Yeah, I was expecting something to happen to the car, like the car's going to catch fire because of the whole issue with the radiator. By the way, nice little, I mean, that was some great thinking on the daughter's part about getting a radiator because, the Bumpses just essentially grow auto parts in their backyard. Great hillbilly bit. I thought that was actually pretty clever. And I mean it ends a little too neatly with the wife having submitted the long form obituary, and that's how Ralphie gets his start as a writer.
And honestly, I saw that coming a mile away. As soon as he said, "Oh, I've got this 2,000 page," and then she's like, "Well, maybe you should like go for something smaller," and I'm like, "Oh, okay, so that's gonna come around, and that's how they're gonna get to the Christmas story." Yeah, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
It was a bit telegraphed. It was still sweet, but it was like, yeah, okay.
Right. But we needed to arrive at a happy ending here, and I thought that was. I thought it was well done because this is what Ralphie wanted for Christmas. He wanted a writing career, and it worked out. I mean, the overall reality mechanics of it don't work out, but at the end of the day, it gives him the happy ending that I feel the character earned.
Yeah,
and I think that's really where we need to go with this. Is that this was not everything that happened to Ralphie was not unearned. Every little thing came back in some way, shape, or form, and it was because of what Ralphie did. I believe those. I believe those things. So on the Ralphie end, Flick, Schwartz, I liked where their stories were going. But you want to talk about Scott Farkas?
Yeah. Again, it felt like, well, we need to get Scott Farkas in there somehow, so he's the cop now, and his kids are the bullies. So like, but he was saying like, oh yeah, I it was about my dad. I was trying to live, and you really turned my life around. So instead, I taught my kids to be dicks instead.
No, he said that he lost control of his kids. But and I'll give the filmmakers credit on this. They never once share screen time. It's not like you see Scott Farkas like encouraging his kids to be assholes. His kids are just assholes in general because they got a snowmobile, and that this is what they're gonna do. They're just, I don't know if they're living off the legacy of their old man, because their old man was like 12 when he, got his ass handed to him by Ralphie. But I do think that scene with them in the police car was great, because it was that tension. What is he going to do? We never spoke after that day. What is he going to do to me?
I liked the scene. It felt like they just, all right, so we need to have Scott Farkus in there somehow. He's the cop, and he catches him breaking into Flick's bar, and he drives him home. It could have been any cop. It could have been no cop at all. They just wanted to have a scene with Scott Farkus in there. It wasn't a bad scene. It just felt convenient, very convenient.
Well, even Scott Farkus brings that up too when he says, "You're lucky that I answered that call. Any other cop would have made you sit the weekend in jail."
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's Christmas Day, and they could have called Flick in. Oh well, yeah, he's a buddy of mine.
Yeah.
It like I said, it's not a bad scene. It's just a very convenient scene for me.
Right. Yeah. This movie is a sequel to an all-time Christmas classic. There need to be some of those happy coincidences that happen in this. People would have questioned otherwise. Where was Scott Farkus? I mean, as it was, Robert Gill gets literally one shot in the movie.
And it's a fantasy too.
Yeah, it's a fantasy. So whatever. It makes sense actually that they wouldn't be hanging out anymore. But it's one of those things that in order to not add time to the story, not to put him in jail, not have him have to call Flick and all this, giving them that scene, giving Ralphie that tension that they never spoke after that ass whooping. What is he going to do to me? I thought that was great. I thought his fantasy sequence was a lot of fun too, especially because his son started speaking with that really heavy Cockney accent.
I don't know. I think they leaned a little bit too heavily onto the fantasies. Yeah, they were a big part of the first one, but that made sense because he was like a 11, 12-year-old boy.
Yeah.
Having fantasies about like being an ace snowball thrower and pelting off a bunch of bandits.
But what I liked about the Black Bart one is it didn't work out in his favor.
Yeah.
It still was, it didn't work out the way that like the old blue scene in the original worked out.
Yeah, I don't know. The fantasies just felt kind of askew for me.
Okay. Well, again, you're dealing with an adult, an adult with an active imagination's fantasies versus a child's fantasies, who also has a. I mean, again, I feel like this. You can make the joke that because it's on HBO Max, it's not a shameless cash in. There are far more egregious sequels in Christmas movies alone.
Yeah. That
things are only there completely for the contrivance. The Santa Claus movies are a good example of that.
Yeah.
Every retelling of the Grinch. What's that?
Especially Santa Claus 3. Oh, that was awful.
Classic. Just shameless waste of Martin Short. Well, I still think the second one was worse, but that's because it served 0 point. But beside that, I enjoyed this. I really enjoyed this, like a lot more than I was expecting to. And I kind of feel like I just need to leave it at that. It was fun. I didn't feel the callbacks were egregious. They needed. I feel like they actually had to be there because if you pull them out, something. I mean, again, you and I have watched this movie collectively probably about 300 times.
The original? Yeah.
Yeah. Collectively, we've seen it about 300 times. Somebody who is not as, maybe they just do the one viewing or whatever on Christmas morning or the 24 hours of A Christmas Story. It's things like that might feel like they're missing.
like I said, there's an amazing amount of heart in this movie, and that's the best thing about this movie. It just
Yeah.
you could tell Peter Billingsley loved doing it, the original, and you could tell he wanted so badly to get the original to bring that feeling back.
Yeah.
He's not Gene Shepard. You
No.
really needed Gene Shepard's touch in this one, and sadly you can't get it.
Right. I just feel that, you know, what we needed was something that was heartfelt. We got that, and I'm happy with that. I can live with that.
Yeah, I do not hate the movie at all. I wanted to like it so badly, and I didn't.
That's fair. That is fair.
But I'm glad that you like it. I want people to like it because I'm glad this movie was made, oddly enough. I'm not crazy about it, but I'm glad it was made because I like seeing them all back together.
Oh, me too. Me too. And I'm glad it was under the watchful view of somebody who gave a damn about these characters.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing, is that, you know, again, you harken back to the Daniel Stern movie, and it's just like it's nothing. I mean, I've seen enough clips of it. Every movie review website has done a take on it. Wrestle Crap even did a take on it, and it is a crass sequel. This was not. This was made by someone who really loved the character, who wanted to bring him back in a meaningful way, and still get him that happy ending, but still have those same types of, you know, little life lessons that someone's going to have. And I was perfectly happy with that. I thought that was great.
Yep.
So, yeah, all in all, I enjoyed this one.
All in all, I'm glad it was made.
Yeah. So next week we move on to another movie that Mike has not seen. That is a Christmas movie, and we're actually going to be talking about the 1990 Tim Burton classic Edward Scissorhands. Actually, I've got my Edward right here. This is my McFarlane Collectibles. Okay. Edward Scissorhands. Yeah.
I was wondering who made that one, because it's actually pretty well made.
McFarlane made great looking action figures, but you can't do dick with them. I can move the fingers around, but I couldn't use this if I were a kid.
Yeah, no.
So we are going to be talking all about Edward Scissorhands next week. That is one of my favorite movies of all time. So
I know that is.
So I'm really, so 2 on this list. So
that one's on Disney Plus, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I've already watched it again because
I know.
I want to get a jump on it. But again, that's a movie I could recite backwards and forwards. But I'm really looking forward to seeing what you think of that one. And we will cover that next week. So, question goes out to you now. Did you watch A Christmas Story Christmas? What did you think of it? Leave a polite comment below. We really would love to know what your thoughts were on this specific one. Did it live up to your expectations? Did it exceed your already diminished expectations? Because that is what society has done to us. Also, don't forget,
I think it's got about like a 78% on Rotten Tomatoes.
It's got a very good Rotten Tomatoes.
Metacritic is like average mixed reviews, and that's actually what I kind of agree with.
Okay. Yeah, it's not a Christmas story.
No,
it simply is not a Christmas story. It's not going to take you back to the, halcyon pre-war years of Middle America. No. It's the 1970s, and it's kind of gray. Actually, it's more beige.
And orange, and how they even made fun of like the avocado phones.
Yes. So, but we'd love to know what you think about that. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it too. It helps us in the algorithm. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. We do appreciate you being here and watching our little show. Mike and I also host a podcast called Geek Salad. You can check that out wherever you get your podcasts. Stitcher, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts. You can check out part 1 of our part 2 episode, our 2-part episode on movies 1992. Just released that one yesterday. Part 2 will be out next week, which I'm very excited about. If I get it done early, maybe I'll even get it this weekend.
Ooh.
Maybe. Wouldn't it be nice to get them done like quickly?
Yes.
Before we do yet another rush job on a Christmas episode, because that is the fly-by-night organization that we here at Geek Salad run. You want to follow us on the social medias, you can check us out on Twitter at Geek Salad Radio, on Facebook at Geek Salad Podcast. You can get us on Hive and Mastodon, both at Geek Salad Radio.
Sound like you said Facebook with an Australian accent.
Facebook.
So get on Facebook.
Get on Facebook. And also check out all our other videos that we have here on YouTube. We do this every week, so we getting through Christmas season. Haven't decided what our January is going to be yet. But yeah, we got a few ideas. We're going to be bringing some guests in, so that'll be a lot of fun as well. So until next time, I'm Andy.
I'm Mike.
Go forth and be nerdful. Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
Coward!